You and I are going on a journey. We've lost our home. Only in a metaphorical sense this time. Now, this isn't the first MMO relationship to fall apart on us. Probably won't be the last. And a wise man once told me that there's plenty of fish in the sea. I just wish all those fish out there would stop trying to put their CEO's dick in my mouth. So welcome to the first episode of Best in Slot, where we're looking for a new MMO to call home. And you know what better place to start our new beginning than at the end of our old one? We've been used, we've been abused by this game, and you know, it just didn't quite feel good different. And if you haven't realized yet, for every bug we encounter in the series, I take a shot. We're doing this now because if I did this at the launch of New World, I would have died a liver failure. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Rose is back on his bullshit again with New World, but you know what? Despite her previously economically abusive behavior and what can only be described as a continuous and unceasing trauma to our frontal lobe, this gal's actually kind of cleaning up her act a little bit. And yes, I know I declared this game dead a little while back, and you know what, the numbers are bearing that out, but call me a necrophiliac because you know what, I just can't leave this corpse alone until I've had my way with it just one more time. The game in its current state actually raises a lot of questions, especially now with how good it's starting to feel. But there's two in particular that need an answer. Is New World worth returning to? And is it worth purchasing if you've never played the game before? The answer to this should be fairly obvious by now. Yes. Yeah, so the real answer to this question is, depends on who you are, really. To answer this question properly, we're going to need the perspective of both someone who's a new player as well as someone who's an old player, not just one or the other. So I started a new character. Once the cutscene is over and we're into the tutorial, immediately the combat feels way better and way less clunky than it did on initial launch. I'm talking no stuttering, no weird input stuff not triggering, none of that. Unfortunately, there's still no unarmed skill despite all logic dictating that there should be one, and the tutorial itself is locked in a series of events where choice is an illusion. Luckily, no bugs yet. Everything is clear, functions as it should, and is easier to understand. Playing through the beginning levels, there appears to be just about the same types of things to do as there was on launch. Sure, there's plenty addition to the volume, with more detailed quests, enemy types, way less bugs, but there's still no addition to the variety of the quests. At its core, everything is still go kill, go collect, or go kill and collect. Now, that's not to say that any other MMO out there is any better, but the leveling experience of this entire genre needs some serious innovation. The core problem here is that there's no real solution being offered to any of your players that makes the leveling experience something enjoyable beyond the one main quest line. Despite all these changes, you're still gonna have players who get sick of the level grind in that level 30 to 50 range and just quit for good. And worse still, there's a fair number of low pop servers where if you don't have a group of slaves you call friends to run through the expeditions with, new players won't be experiencing any of that content at all. Also, ranged weapons still don't have that hit detection problem sorted out at close range, so fuck me, I guess. The big main question probably anyone has about the leveling is just where's the fun? And if it's not fun, why do I have to engage in it? New World has fantastic graphics, great voice acting for its quests, a pretty cool story if you ever learned to read, enjoyable environments to explore, but grinding out fetch, gather, and kill quests over and over again is where you lost a ton of players the first time around. Now, I know this experience isn't even close to as bad as it was at launch, and having extra quests all over the game does help alleviate a lot of these problems, but that's just not good enough for a brand new, modern MMO. These were mechanics that worked over a decade ago. Surely we can build something on top of that by now. And you know, I'll be the first to admit, if the game had launched in the current state that it's in, that player drop-off would have not nearly been as hard as it's been. But we're well past that expiry date, and the biggest problem with this MMO is that it's now missing that first M pretty badly. Look, if you're a new player, you're likely going to be hearing a lot of old complaints that just aren't valid to the current state of the game anymore. The action combat is pretty fun, there's a nice variety of weapons and builds for you to try out without being punished for it at all, and everything else like the trade skills and seasonal events actually feel really good, assuming you don't ignore them entirely. But here's where the problems come in. The end game. The fact of the matter is that there's just not enough content here to hold your attention for very long. And AGS is still trying to stretch it out as much as possible with artificial limitations like the expertise system, which completely invalidates certain forms of player progression when it comes to gearing up. Oh, Oh, and will you look at that? Foliage still pops in and out of existence depending on your camera angle. How the fuck do the Polish drink this? Oh, it's like petrol. Don't get me wrong, I am glad that they're removing things like orbs, adding an entire new zone. The new Pirates of the Caribbean rip-off dungeon is actually coming along pretty nicely. New weapons like the blunderbuss and the great sword are actually pretty fantastic. PvP has some real nice updates too, but it's still not enough. The thing is, we don't just need more of the same type of content repeated over and over again. We need a wider range of variety for both PvE and PvP. Where are the raids? Where are the non-negotiable PvP zones where I get to molest some retarded level 40 who happen to stumble into this place? Hell, you could even put some of the rare resources into that PvP only zone so that whenever the bots come along, the players will molest them for you. That's all we want. What about something like weapon-specific challenges or quests? There is a lot that can, and in some cases will be added into this game, but in its current state, it's just not there yet. And that leads me to the next big problem New World has: management. I'm not that worried about the devs. Whatever iPhone factory slaves that they've got in there have obviously been working their little undernourished fingers to the bone. And I'm personally hoping that the suicide nets outside their office windows are pretty well maintained so that, you know, when they have a breakdown and bash through that window, they can bounce right back in and get back to work. To further prove my point, the New World devs have gone ahead and done something that's completely mentally insane that I just don't see any other MMO out there doing. They're listening to their community and making changes as needed. Now, if they would just listen to this community member and nerf that great hammerstun, that would be great. Thanks. So the devs themselves are not really where the problems lie, and the best way I can think to illustrate this is by using this game. That game right there is almost as riddled with bots as New World is with bugs, and that's just not healthy for long-term sustainability no matter how good the game is. On top of that, AGS still, despite their claims, seem to be leveraging an automated reporting and response system. The same one you can still find in this game. Hence why mass reporting is still a thing and why it still works so damn well for getting rid of people who haven't done anything wrong but you just don't like. And since I know, I just know there's gonna be that one guy who cannot pull the Amazon cock out of his mouth for 1 second before he comments, if by some miracle it just so happens to be that you are right and they're not using an automated system, then the problem is even worse because they are using people who are incompetent and completely incapable of doing this job correctly. But before I go on a ramble, because the alcohol is actually beginning to hit me a bit, if you want to know more about how the Amazon management team helped fuck this game into the dirt harder than a Blizzard employee gets it on a company trip, then there's a link below in the description. Short case in point though, just look at how mismanaged the recent New World tournament was in Amsterdam at TwitchCon.
Speaking of cooldown, I believe we are going to take a short technical break. We're going to...
The world's taken such a fucking massive hit over the last 6 months. It gets so much shit time after time after time after time. And when you see someone like this come out, it needs to go pretty smooth.
While we get them sorted out, we're going to throw to a very quick break.
Going to cut to another short little break. We'll see you back in the grand final in a bit.
My brothers in Christ, we got to see less than half of these matches. What the f? All hope is not lost though. Some of the tumors have been successfully excised, but we'll get to that at the end of the video. If you're a new player considering purchasing New World, then I'm hesitant to tell you that you should buy the game. Try your best to get it on one of the Steam sales if you can, if you really want it. But if you've got a close group of MMO degenerates to play this game with who are just as bad as you, or you're super into crafting systems and you want something that leans a little bit more hardcore, then it might be worth the price tag. Just prepare to be completely fucking curb stomped into oblivion until you get this fucking bullshit number up a little bit and gear out a bit. Now on to the returning players and that invisible flaw that for some reason is still here. Oh, you guys are going to fall into one of two groups. Group one are these guys. Just as I suspected, nothing's changed. Think I'll go do something productive like jerk off instead. Group two are the connoisseurs, the detail inspectors, the ones who are holding out hope that New World might make a comeback And I really advise you to just quickly double check that you're not currently in an abusive relationship and someone is out there making false promises to you before beating the ever-living fuck. The truth is, we've had some pretty significant changes over the last few months. We've even got a really nice, pretty roadmap to look at, sitting right beside all those fucking shadow flickers on the floor that are messing up all the goddamn details. Fuck's sakes. Like I've already said, PvP is actually pretty fun, assuming you're not wearing garbage gear like me. There's been so many bug fixes that it's a little bit insane that they've managed to do so well, given the time frame that they've had to work with. But then again, sometimes you go into an arena and yeah, the scoreboard just vanishes and you can't leave. You gotta sit there and wait out the timer. So please fix that. As for PvE, there's the Tempest Expedition. And outside of that, PvE players can go eat shit. But really, PvE is the thing that's had the most bugs, so this seems to be a case of more refinement. Mobs feel less janky, open world content isn't perfect, but it's objectively more stable. There's actual content coming our way with the next update, and we're getting some pretty solid lines of communications from the devs. But significant changes does not mean attention-grabbing ones. Turns out, if you fuck up your launch, ruin your in-game economy, and have an easily exploitable report system, not many people are gonna bother coming back to see if the game is doing better once they've lost all faith in the people making it. This is especially true because we live in the modern age where we're just spoiled for choice when it comes to video games. If you played the game all the way to level 60, ran the expeditions that were available at launch, did some invasions and some wars, then I honestly see very little reason for you to return to the game right now. You've experienced over 90% of all the content this game had to offer. Excluding those people who really care about seasonal events, you might as well wait until the Brimstone Sands patch comes out. Unless you're one of those nutcases like me who think that there might be a chance of this game pulling a No Man's Sky on us. In that case, you've already bought the game. You've spent your money already, you might as well come back and begin preparing your character to be one of the best on the off chance player populations do start to return to this game. This is a pretty high risk strat though, because I mean, outside of a full-on relaunch or an expansion, something like that, I don't see this game being able to drum up the kind of attention it needs to just bring people back. All of the marketing experts, or professional attention whores as I like to call them, have already cut and run. They've already got their bonuses from selling the game out the first time. They're not coming back to promote the game unless they've got something to sell to people. And speaking of attention whores, this video is sponsored by me because it turns out I'm a brand risk. So I'll tell you what, I've got a deal for you. If this YouTube channel can hit 10k subscribers before the end of the year, I'll speedrun a ban on Twitch. See, I'm trying my best right now to get out of this predatory piece of shit right here. But every time I email Twitch about it, they just ignore me. They never respond. They never do anything. If you want to see some boobs and butts, tune into that stream if this channel gets to 10k. Anyway, back to the video. Why am I saying all of this? Why am I even mentioning this as a possibility? And why am I able to still block jump my way up surfaces? To be honest though, I'm gonna miss that one when they do remove it. If they do remove it. AGS did initially declare that they plan to support this game for at least a decade. And if they keep adding content the way they are currently, there's a small chance we might see a revival of this game. Most importantly, we're already getting rid of those balls that they kept trying to shove down our throats for months. More expeditions, more seasonal events, more world bosses, new weapons. There's even cross-server content in the works. And an expedition group finder that should alleviate the pressure off of anyone playing this game. More importantly, the book salesman parading around in human skin is gone. And on top of that, AGS is finally taking some action against people who false report players in game. Which might mean that AGS is taking a hard look at both the game and how it's managed. But I wouldn't put my money on them being able to solve the latter problem so quickly. If you're considering returning and all you care about is fun, you might as well wait until the autumn patch. If you're a bit sweatier, then this period now is your prep time before the game gives off one final death rattle and turns into dust, or it revives and pulls a Final Fantasy on us. Final conclusion. I'm hopeful, but I'm not really convinced. This game, it's going on the back burner. New World is currently doing well enough that it's managed to crawl its way out of the trash can. I can honestly see myself coming back just to play this game for fun every now and then. But there's just not enough ham in the sandwich that it can be trusted not to be off the shelves in a year or so, due to bots, further player count collapse, or just simple mismanagement. I guess we'll see, but until then, our search continues. Also, camera bounce is still a thing on some interactions. But as always, a big thank to all my subscribers, both old and new, and a special thank to the UNICEF donation team who gets to watch my videos before anyone else out there, and for keeping me alive in the shattered economy. Hope you enjoyed the first episode of Best in Slot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. More content soon. I'm gonna go lie down now. Bye.